turn this over to the man himself. There's the belt there. If you guys can see Coach Willis pulling out his belt. Here we go. Coach Willis, my good friend, your team pushed 17U coach, and the man himself, Coach Jon Willis.
Thank you, Coach Miner, and it's so good to see everybody. I have a couple of thoughts that I want to share with you. I want to start by asking you a question, and that is, how did you grow during the pandemic? Anything that we harvest, I live out on a farm, and anything that we harvest starts out as a seed, okay? And before you can harvest it, you have to plant it, okay? And the planting process essentially is a change of elements and a change of scenery. And once you take a seed and put it underneath soil, that becomes pressure on top of the seed. And it's what happens to the seed during the pressure moment that makes it able to be harvested. So the pandemic is a pressure moment for all of us. It's a change of scenery. It has forced all of us to change how we conduct our normal business, how we interact with each other. For example, we're on a Zoom meeting call right now as opposed to being in the gym all together. My point is this: what is it that you have done during this time of pandemic to fertilize your seed? Because soon we will be out of this and we'll be back to playing ball. We'll be back on the gym floor. And the question then will be, what kind of fruit are you bearing? Or are you spending time explaining your excuses? See, this is the time for you to be spending time on the jump rope, for you to be getting shots up in the driveway, for you to be running around the block, you know, doing those things to get better. And if you're not doing those things, then they'll show. They will show. So my question to you is, how are you growing and what are you using as fertilizer? There are some things that you can use as fertilizer that I'll share with you right now. For one, from an athletic standpoint, Coach Convoy puts out 5-week challenges. That's one thing that you can do, and sticking true to that, that's one thing that you can do to help fertilize. The next thing, you should be listening to a podcast or finding a good book to read. I know one podcast you can listen to is the Juice Box. That's my very own podcast. You should be listening to someone so that you're feeding and growing and developing your mind. Also, what skills are you sharpening and polishing? Maybe take up a new hobby, take up a new craft. And lastly, how are you growing yourself in the game mentally? This is a perfect time for you to use a resource like YouTube. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to Coach Miner. You can reach out to Coach Hellstrom. Learning a new system, learning a new style of play. You can pick a team. You can say, you know what? I want to study the triangle offense. Go start watching teams that Phil Jackson coached. You can say, I want to learn a dribble drive offense. Go start learning. Go start watching teams that Coach Calipari coached. If you want a better understanding of 2-3 zone, go start watching Syracuse games. This stuff is free to you on YouTube. Not necessarily saying that you're going to be playing in a 2-3 zone or you may be facing a 2-3 zone. Well, this is a great time for you to learn what shots are available. When this time is over, if you cannot answer those questions, if you're not ready to blossom and to harvest, then you have missed the opportunity. So I want to encourage you all, as you guys are here, feel free to reach out to me. I know Coach Miner, I'll speak for him. I know he'll be open if you reach out to him. The same with all of your push coaches. Okay? I know I've spent probably 6 or 7 times in conversation with Coach Hellstrom. You know, we just pick a topic and we start studying and looking. So I want to challenge you guys to, as you're watching basketball, to not just watch the ball, but watch the action that's going on around the play. And if you have questions, you should be reaching out to one of your push coaches every week. You should have a question. Coach, how does this work? Coach, why is this guy open? If you're not doing that, then you're not taking advantage of the resources that you have. So I want to encourage you to grow, be ready to blossom, because soon is the time for harvest. Thank you.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you. If you're watching, drop something in the chat box about how you have been working during this time. I see Josh there is talking about how he's studying offensive systems, reading books. If you guys have a recommendation of a podcast or a book or a movie or a YouTube link, put it in the comments. I have a couple that I'll be dropping here in a minute of some podcasts that I've been listening to that I feel are very valuable. So I will be dropping a few of those, but I want to introduce the guest speaker we have that we're going to get to chat it up with a little bit here, seeing if I can unmute him. So Coach Ryan McCarthy is the head women's basketball coach at the University of Alaska, Anchorage. Also one of my longtime friends. I'll appreciate him joining us. 185 and 17 in his last 6 years. I'll say that number again because it's almost hard to imagine that you can win 90% of the games, but 185 victories and 17 losses. 4-time, and you can correct me, Coach, when you hop on if I'm mistaken in any of these, but 4-time GNAC Coach of the Year. His team led the Division II level for 4 straight years in steals. Played in the national championship game, Division II. Before that was a player, played himself as in Germany, I believe, where he was a 3-point specialist. Played at Northwest Nazarene University, where he was a 3-year captain, 4-year starter at the Division II level there at NNU, and was also a member of the same club traveling program as myself when he was in high school. So Coach McCarthy, I really appreciate you joining us. You are off mute. So how's everything? You're in Alaska, or do you still, how's everything with you?
We're back. We're back in Alaska, so it's been good. And I want to tell everyone how great of a teammate Coach Minor was when we played together. We the first time I ever got injured was on the road in basketball in Las Vegas. And our coach had made a deal with us that if we won, we were going to be able to go to Hooters. And as a 15, 16-year-old boy, that was a pretty big deal. Well, I got hurt that night and we won, and so I didn't get to go. And Coach Minor, being the stand-up that he is, got hot dogs for us in the casino and brought them back to the room, and we had hot dogs and watched some basketball that night. So that's how good of a guy Coach Minor is.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's always a great story. I don't know how much that's true, but I think it's mostly I'm just that great of a guy that as a 16-year-old guy, I was looking out for my teammate. But let's hop right in. Let me ask you a little bit about your philosophy and mayhem. You talked to the people watching a little bit about what mayhem is and what that means to you and your ladies.
Yeah, I mean, our system is called Mayhem, and I think with any coach out there, nobody's inventing the wheel. We're all stealing certain things and trying to put our own signature on them. And our particular brand was Mayhem, and we stole that from Coach Shaka Smart when he was at Virginia Commonwealth. And they had a system called Havoc. The thing that people don't know is the coach that was there before Shaka Smart ran almost the exact same system. They had run to Sweet 16 at VCU. I mean, it's a really good job. And he didn't brand it. And Shaka did, and it made him famous, and now it's made him a millionaire. And so When I got to UAA, we weren't the only team that was pressing or playing a matchup zone or anything like that. UNLV men ran the amoeba defense back in the early 90s, and we stole that and kind of made our own signature on it. And Shaka Smart was full court pressing teams after makes, and ran a real high energy type system. We did that, and I think the most important part is our culture. And we've copied that not from a basketball team. I wanted to copy our culture based off a team I felt was the most elite team that there is in anything, and that was the Navy SEALs. And so I really studied that. I read a lot of books on that. I met with the Alaska Command, which is where they bring all the military leaders from around the United States. And a couple years ago, they wanted me to speak to them about what we do. And it was a really good learning opportunity for me to be able to speak to 4-star generals and HEAL squad commanders and things like that about what we do, and get some things, takeaways from what they do. So I think that's the most important part to, our mayhem or our team culture is just the things that we do outside the lines, I think sets us apart from everyone else.
So talk to us a little bit about what you mean by outside the lines, how your culture carries over into more than basketball.
I think, just taking ownership in everything, even when we were first building this, we've been 185 and 17, and, we've done some really neat things in our program within the lines. We're the only Division II women's basketball team in the history of basketball to win a Division I tournament. And we went down and beat Utah at Utah and beat Pepperdine by 40, and some things that were really big, but outside the lines is where that started. And I think that, the rules of our team are you have an elite summer, because in our program, being elite is not a choice. That your choices to be great get eliminated when you sign up for us, because to
Hold
be
up.
great.
Hold up. Talk about what you mean by that. What's that saying, or like how go? I guess keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but talk about that.
Well, to be great, it takes what it takes. So you don't get a choice to be great. And I think a lot of kids today think that they have a choice because social media has opened everything to where you only see the highlight film for everybody's life and for everybody's game. And especially now, because our lives are all kind of broadcasted, in the way that we communicate and everything is online and all that kind of stuff. And so we rarely show all the hard work and stuff that it takes and all the crap that you have to give up and that you have to go through, because getting good really sucks. It's really hard. You have to give up a lot of stuff and a lot of time. And so, for us, we eliminate any like misconception that they think they get choices when they come to play for us. So they have X amount of shots they have to hit every single day. They have to be in the gym. We pretty much eliminate a lot of their social life because they have to have those characteristics or those habits, I should say, set in place, and your habits make your culture. And that's just part of what you have to give up to become a champion at this level or to become elite. And I think also we're really working hard to develop leaders. So you're either going to be a pro when you're done playing for us, or you're going to go into the workforce and you're going to lead men or women or whatever it is. For us, I coach on the women's side, and our ladies that are leaving, they're going to be the boss of men when they leave. They're going to have their degree, they're going to enter the workforce as a leader, and they need to know, how that world works. So that's really important for us, and they need to understand that whatever kind of organization that they become a part of, that it's a winning one.
I love that. I love that you said habits make your culture. so many people think your culture is created by slogans or phrases or, obviously you have slogans and sayings, but it's your behavior that creates that culture.
Right.
What was have you ever thought about not playing insanely fast and aggressive on defense? Have you ever thought about, have you ever had a team where you're like, well, I guess the nice thing in college, you're able to recruit, so you're bringing in kids that fit your mold, but have you ever thought about having to play slow or change up your style?
Yeah, we have at times, and we can manipulate our press to more control tempo where, to beat a team like a Utah who has 15 full rides and they have girls in their team that wouldn't even look at a letter from me. We wouldn't be in the recruiting game on anybody. We can't then go attack them and play the same exact way that we're going to go play someone maybe more our level or someone that we feel like wouldn't play well in a fast pace. There's a lot of times where we'll have to kind of manipulate what we do, and we can still stick to our principles defensively, but we can dictate the tempo. And I think in basketball, the most important thing is that you dictate the tempo in each game. So if you're a fast team and you want the game played at that speed, then you do things to manipulate the tempo of the game. And I think for us, it's more of kind of a game plan type of situation to where we're going to do a lot of the same things, but we're not always going to play the same way every single game and fall on our sword, because then I kind of think you're looking more towards a 500 season where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
That's good. I love that. Team that dictates the tempo. And you guys tend to do that a lot. Obviously you're playing Mayhem, and you have ladies that are moving on to play professionally, right? And let me ask, what's kept you, I know you've had, look, Pac-10 or Pac-12. I said Pac-10, that dates me a little bit, how old I am. But you've had, opportunities to move on to other schools. What's kept you at the Division II level in Alaska?
Well, for me, I have had those opportunities. I was head coach of another program for one day before I went back. And a lot of it's been my family and really trusting the people that have been important in my life. In fact, I had gone to a lunch with someone that was, he's now passed away, but he had terminal cancer at the time. And he kind of put things in perspective for me because his mortality was real. And I think that changes, when you know that you're kind of on death row there, the way that you perceive your life is a lot different. And I really respected what he had to say. He was more or less a mentor in my life. And we went to lunch the day before I was supposed to have my press conference at this other school. And I had then called my son, and he was looking forward to coming up to Alaska and doing camps. And we also do camps out in the village. I have my own business that we do camps out in the Arctic slope. And he was looking forward to that. And I told him that I wouldn't be able to do that because I was going to have to go recruiting in Hungary, Portugal, and Spain. And I wouldn't be able to see him. And so he started crying and said, well, you're so much closer to me now. And I said, buddy, I got to work harder because I've got to turn this program around that's not doing very well right now. And I called the AD the next day and told him that I wouldn't be able to take the job. But I think that what keeps us here is we've got something really special. Our alumni still come back, and they have their own, families now or their jobs or whatever, but they still come back to kind of revisit their legacy that they left at UAA. And I just know that if we leave, all that changes, and we have a really good situation. We have probably the only gym that I've seen better than ours is probably Oregon. We have one of the best facilities. I was born across the street from where I work. And it's just kind of been home for me. So it would have to take something really special for me to leave. And I think the last thing that I'll say is you hear a lot of coaches and they tell you how great their program is and they tell you how great their university is. And then the next year you hear from that same coach, but he's wearing a different polo with different colors representing a different university, and he's telling you the same things about a different school. So he can't fully believe that. And where I'm at, I really believe the things that I'm telling the recruits. I truly believe in the product, and we're a big fish in a small pond, I guess, for lack of better terms. And I love being here.
Big fish too, literally. I mean, when I went to Alaska, I didn't know Willis and I caught some of the biggest fish I've ever seen up there in Alaska, right in your backyard. We got a question. If you guys have questions for Coach McCarthy, drop them in the chat. But we had one here that said, how did you get buy-in from the whole team when you first started your style of defense?
It was really easy, and it was probably easier than it should have been. We didn't put in that style. I was man-to-man, very old school, deny the passing lanes, everything, and never thought I'd play a lick of zone in my whole coaching career. And we had put in the amoeba defense before we played Kansas State. And Kansas State had just won the Big 12, which in women's basketball includes Baylor, and it's a very strong conference. And we thought going into that game, if we lose by 30, we'll be pretty happy. And we put the amoeba in for out of bounds plays. And the first play of the game was an out of bounds. And we defended it, got a steal, got a layup. They call a timeout because they're very upset. And I tell the ladies in the timeout, they're going to draw up a set, so just fall back into amoeba. We come back, we get a stop in the amoeba, we get another layup, and she calls another timeout. And so I just tell them, hey, we're just going to play amoeba the rest of the game. And we were up by 9 at halftime. And so from there, from the halftime of that K-State game, there has been about 4 possessions that we've played man-to-man defense. And so I think it was really easy for them to buy in at that point, and then just from the success that kind of followed after that. But I just think a lot of it too is our team culture. Everybody, they pass on the buy-in, so I'm not having to re-recruit that buy-in every single year. The ladies do that for us. We have very good leadership.
Internal leadership's key, right, Coach?
Absolutely.
I mean, because you can say a lot of the same stuff, but sometimes it's coming from a player. We got another question. Do you think you guys will move up to Division I, or is that not allowed? From Cooper.
I don't think we have Division I sports at our school as well. So we have Division I hockey, Division I gymnastics, Division I downhill, and cross-country skiing. But our court sports has remained Division II. And I don't see that changing just because I don't think any conference would take us. We don't have football, so we couldn't join the Big Sky. We're not a private religious school, so the West Coast Conference probably wouldn't be a good fit for us. The only one that I could see us maybe going into would be the Big West, but we'd have to add a bunch of different sports, and in the financial climate that Alaska's in right now, from oil prices and stuff like that, I just don't see that happening. So our best fit right now is Division II.
Great. But you got Division I facilities, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
That is a really nice setup. Coach Hellstrom asked, does your offense match your defense in terms of tempo?
Yeah, I would say in some respects, we play a 4-out 1 end that we stole from Jay Wright, more similar to the offense that he was running when he was at Hofstra instead of Villanova, because it's a little more simplified. And then we probably have about 50 sets. So when it becomes winning time, back in about 4 minutes left in the game, we just run set after set after set after set, and then just kind of grind it out. We get most of our sets. I get most of our sets from the European leagues. And then Stu Morrill, when he was at Utah State on the men's side, I thought he had really good stuff too.
Where's Stu Morrill now?
I think he's retired now. He's living a good life.
Yeah, that's what we'd all like to be doing. If you weren't coaching at Alaska Anchorage, what would you be doing, Coach? What would you be doing if you weren't coaching, influencing young ladies, and what would you be doing, do you think?
Something to have to do with sports. My brother has probably the coolest job that I know of. He works for the Michael Jordan brand, and whenever we take our team to Portland, he always gives us a tour of the campus and tells them the ins and outs of that job. I mean, that'd be a pretty cool one. or probably doing some sort of like basketball camps or something like that. You know, I've really enjoyed my business that I get to do in the summertime out in rural Alaska, and you know, just having that kind of adventure every summer. You know, you fly on these little 6-seater planes and fly into dirt runways, and they come pick you up on ATVs and show you the whale they got that spring and that type of stuff. So I enjoy it. I like, you know, probably something out here.
That's awesome, man. Reese Strawn, one of our going to be 8th graders next year, asks, when recruiting, what is the first thing you look for?
Probably athleticism for us. I mean, we're giving something up, right? We're not like big time, you know, where we just get a look at a list and then, you know, like Oregon, you know, I watched something where they said they had to go find a kid that was ranked in the top 100. We don't do that. I think we have to cast a pretty big net. But I would say how they compete. Are they playing hard the whole time? You know, that will tell me if winning is important to them. And that is the biggest thing. We have a saying in our preseason that it pays to be a winner. And everything we do is competitive. We don't just run lines. You know, in our preseason conditioning, they pick teams like you're on the playground, and one team goes against the other one, and they just compete. And so that's the one thing that I really look for. How hard does that kid compete?
I love that. Competitor, there's something about, and obviously there's this Jordan documentary. I think that's one thing that stands out to me is he's a killer, right? Like, it doesn't matter what it is he's playing. It could be Pac-Man against Horace Grant, right? That's the one people talk about where he got beat at the arcade by Horace Grant. So we went out and bought the Pac-Man machine, put it in his garage, and was out there until he could beat Horace Grant. But good question. I think that competitiveness is something that is undervalued and is definitely something you can recruit and tell. Well, if there's any other questions, drop them. We've been on for a half hour. I want to respect Coach McCarthy's time. It's more, you got more daylight up there though than some times of the year though, right?
Yeah, it's been nice. We able to, you know, take my son. There's a couple on the parking garages downtown. I live downtown here, and on top they have basketball courts and a couple of them. So I always take my son up there, and we shoot some hoops and stuff like that in the evening time.
And it's still open.
Yeah, it's still open. Yeah, we just opened back up, so we are only 100 active cases up here of COVID. No, so it's not like everywhere else. We're pretty isolated up here. So.
Well, stay safe, man, and get Donovan. He's into it? Your son's into hoops?
Yeah, he is. He loves it, man. So he's 9 and he's just starting to kind of fall in love with the game. And I just, you know, I always tell him, as long as you work hard, I'll make sure that, you know, you get all the things that you need to be successful.
Maybe end up playing Pacific, be a boxer. I know.
Yeah, that's right.
Willis is muted, so he can't do any rebuttal. He's holding his belt there. I don't know if you can see him holding up his NWC belt. But we got another one. Are you going to do a Zoom on the Mayhem system soon? Are you going to?
I've done
the Championship Productions. So if you haven't seen him, this guy's great on camera. Championship Productions videos. He's got, 2 videos?
3.
3 videos. So if you don't have them, it's a great investment. Mother's Day's coming.
There's a couple podcasts I think out there that I've been on that I talk about a little bit. I do want to do a Zoom one. I thought I'd only get about 30 or 40 coaches that wanted to do it, and ended up being over like 250. So I need to probably buy a Zoom membership or something. But I do want to do that. I want to be able to help out and give away what we do and try to get some stuff from people as well, because we definitely have all the answers.
What crosses a player off your recruiting list? What turns you off so much that you cross them off your list?
If they give up.
They quit.
That's it. If they give up, done.
Love that. I had a shirt. If I had a shirt made that says, "When the going gets tough, quit," probably wouldn't be a top seller, right?
No.
When adversity sets in, give up.
Yeah, just give up.
Just quit. Yeah. When the times get hard,
Go get a Happy Meal. Make yourself happy.
just give up and try to do something. Sell ice cream if you want everybody to like you.
Go to Chuck E. Cheese.
But no, I think that's great. Competitiveness and giving up. So that's something. Obviously, you want to recruit winners, but sometimes I like to see how a kid handles adversity, right? Like if they're getting their butts kicked and they're still playing hard,
Yep.
that says a lot. Because everybody can be a good teammate when you're winning, right?
Yep.
And obviously, you're not going to recruit kids if they're getting their butts kicked every game.
Right.
But let's see. We got another question. How hard is it for you to recruit all the way up in Alaska?
Just as hard as that question was. We tell them that we win all these games and we do all this kind of stuff and we play in a sweet arena, and they say, man, it's all the way up in Alaska. And they're like, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It gets dark. It's cold. It's really hard to play for me, but it's really hard to win. And if you're not down with any of those three things, then you're probably not a good fit for us. So it eliminates a lot of the people that I don't think could make it. Because if you make the trip all the way up here, then you're willing to give some other things up to be able to take, do what it takes to win.
Love that. Sacrifices in order to win. That's good stuff. Well, definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in. Ryan, I really appreciate you hopping on, man. It's always good to see you. Wish we were able to get back up to Alaska this summer, but it's not looking good. But if you're ever down in Portland, Oregon, let me know if you make it back. Because do you ever get back to – so you're an Alaska native, but you went to Crook County High School. How does that one work, Ryan?
Well, we left Alaska when I was about 13, and we moved down there. And so pretty much all the middle school and high school, I played basketball for the Crook County Cowboys.
Prineville, shout out.
Prineville, any Central Oregon people, yep. So that's kind of where, my mom still lives there and stuff. So, but yeah, I've got a special place in my heart for the Oregon Hoopers.
Awesome, man. Well, definitely thanks again for joining me, Ryan, and thanks for everybody for tuning in. If you guys got other questions, you're on Twitter. What's a good Twitter for you?
At Coach R. McCarthy. I think that's what it is. I don't think there was enough.
I think you can change them now. I think you can change your handle. So because I was looking at it, Ryan.
I think it's at Coach R. McCarthy, because there was not enough letters to put McCarthy or the characters. So I think it ran out at R. So Coach MCCAR.
R, just R.
Just R. That's where it ends.
That's done. Well, yeah. I'm gonna unmute it here. So some people are asking. I'll post something on our social media, Team Push, Max Hoops, that explains where you can reach him. But if you have Instagram, you can look at Team Push. I just posted something about this conversation. So we're gonna have another call Tuesday. Appreciate everybody checking in. I'm the unmute, so if you guys want to give a shout out to Coach Willis, or if Coach Willis wants to rebut and say anything, he can. So now, and you guys are on. All right, Coach. Appreciate you, Ryan.
Thank you, Coach.
Good to see you, Morgan. Thanks for tuning in, Greg. All right, Evan.
Thank you. Coach Willis, I thought you'd flex the belt more.
Jake says that you didn't flex the belt enough, Willis.
You gotta own Linfield.